Council, sorry we started so late. We were in a work meeting prior, didn't have a little longer than we thought it would. So we will start tonight with an invocation from Reverend Jimmy Keston with Solomon's Porch Foursquare Fellowship.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. What a joy to be with you today. We live in interesting times, and it's so great to know that we live in a community that still has such great shared values and community spirit. And thank you for all that you do to promote that. On behalf of the Interfaith Council of St. George and the family at Solomon's Porch, we bring you welcome. And summer is officially here, and we just look forward to the activities coming up through the rest of the year. And let's open you guys in prayer. Father, you know that there are great challenges that come in the times that we are living in. And so our prayer today is that you would give each member of this council, our mayor, and all of the city staff, department heads, employees, just wisdom to guide us through the challenges that we currently face. Bless us with a spirit of community unity that has always been the hallmark of this area, and that would continue to guide us as we work together to find solutions for the challenges of the incredible growth that we have seen. Bless the work of this council today and all who speak before it. We pray this in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jimmy. We appreciate that. I've asked Councilwoman MacArthur to lead us in the pledge.
If you'll please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance along with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Greg. So, Adam, we don't have any pre-agenda items. Anything that needs to be pulled from the agenda or any changes?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay. So tonight is comments for the public, and just a reminder that you have to be a St. George resident to comment, and we can't take public comment on any item on tonight's agenda or likely to be on a future agenda. If you're here to comment on the budget or the proposed property tax increase, you may write your comments on a paper and submit them to staff, or you can go to Safe St. George website and provide your comments there, because we will have a public hearing on that on August 18th. So with that, the first one I have is Diane 2.
Hi. I wanted to speak about freedom. I've heard rumor that you're developing a nice big thick book about exactly what we can have in our houses and what we can do, and I totally disagree with that. You don't have the right to take our personal freedoms away. Government is designed to protect our freedom. And when we bought our property and we built on it, we were required to have 30% green space. So we did 30% green space. Now you want a whole bunch of money for the water, to water the green space. A long time ago, we came to a meeting when the city was going to take away the irrigation rights from the street that we live on. And we were told it was for the greater good. Well, for the greater good of the community to take that away. All kinds of trees died. Every decision you make has consequences, serious consequences. You need to really think things through, because you can't get water out of a dry hole. Thank you.
Greg. The next one is Steve Lindley.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Steve Lindley. I live at 4223 South Painted Finch, and I first of all wanted to just say thank you. You attended your first open house at the Sun River Community Center for our residents and others that attended, and I just want to say thank you. I hope that you felt that it was a good event, and we enjoyed having you there and answering questions from our community. I've got a couple of other comments. If they're not appropriate, just tell me to stop. But thank you, first of all. We're in a great position today as a community, and we hope going forward and working with developers, teams on commercial development. Key items of discussions have been around safety, lighting, traffic, stoplights, vehicle speed, hours of operations, landscape, building colors.
Steve, is that? I think
No, it's not related to that. This is future
Okay.
things.
All
Is
right.
that okay?
Yep.
Talk about future, yeah. These are things in the future that will continue and hope to continue to work with the developer, but not related to what's on the agenda.
Okay.
Our residents, homeowners are looking forward to future community commercial development that will bring businesses to our neighborhood, restaurants, small businesses that we can frequent. One concern is to keep the current or the community commercial zoning and no multifamily. We have just general concerns in our community about that. Homeowners understand and know the zoning that they moved into, and they hope that that with some future community commercial, that they're very much in favor of that from what I'm hearing. Last of all, development will draw traffic from Sun River, Bloomington, Desert Color, and those traveling into Utah. We need this area of development to be a welcome area for visitors, look and feel for our great city and state of Utah. Thank you very much.
And our next one is Joanne Merrell.
Hi, I'm a resident of the St. George, and I'm also on the board of directors for the Southern Utah Art Guild, and I wanted to thank the city for all that they do for us. And I had written this, the Southern Utah Art Guild services all artists from the beginner to the professional in all mediums in Southern Utah through its DBA Arrowhead Gallery to the Red Cliff Gallery, where all artist levels are welcome and are recognized with awards and free educational programs. At the Red Cliff Gallery, 9 art shows are held per year, which includes an art show for all of the Washington County school children, and both galleries offer complimentary space to the Utah Tech University art students. The current show at the Red Cliff Gallery features over 70 local artists, and we have 30 artists at the Arrowhead Gallery. The Southern Utah Art Guild is the area's hub for the visual art community. The last 90 days, we sent out 12,000 emails with 60% open rate. And we have 470 members on the roster. And we have 1,200 contacts in our email system. Just wanted to thank the city for its past support, and I hopefully will get good continued support in the future, because I think this is such a great organization and a good community and good art destination, St. George. Thank you.
All right. The other 3 comments I had were items related to the agenda, so we're going to just go right into our agenda. Adam.
Okay, Council, that takes us to the consent calendar. We have 8 items, and if there are any of those that you'd like to pull off for individual discussion, we're happy to go into those. I would ask Mark Mortensen to provide just a little bit of additional background on item H, just some updates since our work meeting discussion.
Mayor and Council, some of the change in recommendation from staff has occurred just recently since we actually advertised the agenda. We've been working with the event organizer in trying to find a suitable location. As you can see on the agenda, it mentions that staff recommends that we move the event from the proposed road location into one of our city parks, and the park that we've been discussing with the event organizer is Worthen Park. There's also no mention of the waiver of the park rental fee on a weekly basis for the downtown farmers market. And I'm sorry, I didn't clarify, it's on item H on the agenda. And in addition to that, with us moving it to this location, or the event organizer moving to this location, the city waiving the fees and becoming a sponsor of the Downtown Farmers Market, I didn't know, if the city council felt strongly about the 6-month period. Either way, it's at your discretion. Just wanted to bring that up as to whether or not you wanted to approve it for the full year, or you still wanted to come back and review it in 6 months at the location that's being proposed, which is Worthen Park.
I know for me, I would love to meet with Kat and her team after 6 months and just make sure that this space is working for them. I think it will be beautiful. Obviously, there's a lot of really great options there at Vernon Worthen Park. I just want to make sure that it's fulfilling their primary need, which is, helping the market, and that they're getting good attendance. But then I think there's also a secondary need that the market's always fulfilled, which people kind of spill over into downtown. And so it would be good for us to have a conversation about are all the needs and objectives being met. So if you're good with that, Kat, maybe we can just still plan on meeting at the 6-month mark and making sure that this is a good location for you. Okay.
Any other items you want to pull off the consent calendar to discuss further? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as presented, with the changes in item H, that it is going to be at Worthen Park and sponsored by the city, that we will be waiving those park fees, and that we will review with the event organizer at 6 months.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Greg. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Jenna is going to present our next item.
So the annual action plan for the Community Development Block Grant is on tonight, and it is a public hearing item. The 30-day public comment period was from May 19th to June 24th. Staff did not receive any comments. The funding is proposed 15% to our subrecipient nonprofit partners, 20% to administration, and then 65% to public facilities identified.
Council, this was in your packet and you had time to look at it. Do you have any questions for Jenna before I open it up for a public hearing?
I'm just going to say I read through that entire packet, and she always does a great job. When she presented at Planning Commission, she was very thorough, and I appreciate your hard work.
I just have a couple questions on it. So on page 146, it has the Spectrum getting $1,000 and a third party $65,000. Can you just kind of explain that to me?
Yes, so for environmental reviews and for these public notices and things, they have to go to the newspaper still. So that's why the Spectrum has the 1,000. Each of those notices is about $200 because they're so lengthy. And then the 65 to a third party environmental reviews, we have to sub out to someone who's qualified to conduct those. And then with different changes and things, we need a little bit more oversight with Davis-Bacon and Section 3. So Davis-Bacon and Section 3 will be required for both the park and the rec center.
Okay. And on page 112, it says it's for promotion of fair housing. What exactly is meant by that?
That is one of the items outlined in the common plan and something we need to address. We don't have any items specific to fair housing that we're allocating budget to.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Jenna? If not, this is a public hearing for anybody who's come to comment on the Community Development Block Grant Program for fiscal year 2023. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, come back to you, Council, for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion, but first I just wanted to read this for the people who are here. I think that our community does an excellent job maximizing the benefits from these dollars. And on page 116 of the packet, it says, these partnerships have been created to maximize the resources available to homeless persons through the development and coordination of an effective and comprehensive continuum of care system addressing services from homelessness prevention services, outreach services, emergency shelter, transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, and permanent affordable housing. And I just wanted to note that we have these different groups that are working together, our local homeless council. There's gosh, what is there, Jenna, 6 or 7 groups that all contribute to this. And I just know that our community has really been a model when it comes to helping in this area and really making good decisions with the money that we have. So I just wanted to thank Jenna for that. And I'll make a motion that we approve the community block grant, the CDBG for the fiscal year 2023.
Second the motion.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Natalie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 4, Emily's presenting. They're tag teaming, Emily and Michelle.
Yes. And we're both really short. All right. I just want to take this moment to recognize and thank all of the arts organizations and artists who have showed up tonight in support of the arts, and to thank City Council for all that we do for the arts in the city of St. George. I am amazed and flabbergasted with the amount that these organizations are able to do with the public subsidized opportunities we give them. And so thank you. And I'm open to questions.
Any questions for Emily? Emily, do you want to run down your list really quick of the arts organizations and what they were awarded this year? It's in the packet, but in case people in the audience don't know.
And Mayor, can I add, I just think everyone should know that the system for awarding this has always been really challenging. And Emily, and we have a few people from the art group in the back from our Arts Commission who have put countless hours into streamlining this. I don't know, Emily, do you think you could estimate how many hours you put into streamlining this? It's been a lot. And I'm sure it's been a lot of
I know the
after hours.
Are intense.
They're
to
intense.
Get the RAP money.
Yeah, and
Well,
sometimes.
Yeah, Emily really repurposed this grant, and she did a tremendous amount of research to just streamline it and make it easier for the commission to understand and make it easier for the applicant to fill out. But it's also so much more comprehensive than it has been in the past, and it's been a great improvement to the system.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Like, this is the first year that we've had the meeting, and it happened much faster, smoother, more objective, less subjectivity, more objectivity in awarding these grant dollars. So thank you to her.
I do have a quick question on, because this is all coming from RAP tax, correct? So is there a certain percentage with that has to go toward art versus a park, or is there any type of
Yes,
restriction
it's
that
been
way?
designated by the county. It's a county tax.
And it's a percentage that
Yes.
certain goes toward art versus instead of a park?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll add to that list. So I sat on that committee for 6 years, and as you go through that list, there's so many deserving parties and art organizations that provide so much value to this community. So kudos on getting through that and awarding the dollars. They're all well deserved, in my opinion, and I know how hard it is. So thanks for what you do.
All right, so I'll go through the list. The Arts Commission recommends giving Art Around the Corner $5,000. Cox Performing Arts Center presents the Celebrity Concert Series, $16,000. Dinosauratorium, which runs the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Center, $5,000. Encore Performing Arts, $5,000. Film and Media Alliance of Southern Utah, $12,000. Harry Bertoya Foundation, $1,000. Lieto, $4,500. St. George Chamber Singers and St. George Children's Choir, $5,000. Sears Art Museum, $16,000. Southern Utah Comedy Theater, SOU Comedy Theater, $4,500. Southern Utah Art Guild, $7,000. Southern Utah Heritage Choir, $16,300. Southwest Symphony Orchestra, $20,000. St. George Jazz, $10,000. St. George Children's Museum, $14,000. St. George Dance Company, $15,000. St. George Musical Theater, $15,000. Tefano Otera Incorporated, $3,000. The Stage Door, $15,000. Washington County Historical Society, $2,200. Western Sky Aviation Warbird Museum, $8,000. and Zion Youth Symphony Orchestra $3,000. In addition to these general operating support grants, the Arts Commission also, for the first year ever, heard proposals for project-specific grant monies, and the awards for those projects are Arts to Zion with $2,500, Castle Rock Music Camp $6,500, Dixie Watercolor Society $3,500, Encore Performing Arts $7,000, Exchange Club $7,500, Film and Media Alliance of Southern Utah $2,500, St. George Jazz Festival $10,500, and St. George Dance Company $7,500.
Thanks, that's a huge list.
Thanks for making me read it.
Have a lot of art groups in St. George, so. Any other questions for Emily or Michelle? If not, I will take a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the St. George Art Commission's RAP Tax Art Grants distribution list.
I'll second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Danielle. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Taylor, you're up.
Mr. Taylor was my dad.
I know, he was my principal.
Mayor and City Council, item number 5 is your consideration of approval of an ordinance amending various sections of Title 8 and Title 10 in our city codes relating to water conservation. This has been...
Scott, speak up so those in the back can hear you.
This has been a long time in the making. I think we've had 4 different city council work meetings. We met once jointly with the Planning Commission. These proposed changes have been to the Planning Commission, and a public hearing was held at that time. After the Planning Commission, we brought it back to the City Council in a work meeting, and there were some other changes that were requested. So if you've had an opportunity to go through the Title 8 and Title 10, the changes that you see there, changes in red, the highlighted changes in red are changes that the city staff and Planning Commission proposed, and then changes in green are the additional changes that the City Council has requested. So maybe just a little to highlight some of the changes. For all new construction, again, these ordinances only pertain to new development. They don't pertain to existing homes, existing residents, just new development. So the proposed changes for construction are all new construction will be required to have Energy Star appliances, WaterSense labeled plumbing fixtures, and hot water recirculation system if they are not able to deliver hot water to the tap within 0.6 gallons. And then each unit, we want to try to individually meter each unit as much as possible. We find that if the residents know exactly how much they're using, they tend to use less. As far as the landscaping goes, landscaping for residential areas would be limited to 8% of the total square footage of the lot, with a 1,500 square foot maximum cap on lawn. So that's up to half-acre lots. In our discussion in our last City Council work meeting, we've changed that to where if you have a larger lot, larger than half-acre lot, that cap would be increased to 2,000 square foot. We also, in our last City Council work meeting, discussed the possibility of the smaller lots, maybe having a minimum cap, or how do I say this? So a small lot would be able to have up to 600 square foot of lawn, regardless of the size of the lot. So the really small lots would still be able to have 600 square foot of lawn. The City Council was expressed their desire to have at least 600 square foot on the smaller lawns. We also discussed swimming pools. Prior to our last work meeting, we suggested that the swimming pools would also be included in the lawn square footage calculation. We've since removed that, so the swimming pools do not count as part of the overall amount of lawn that you're allowed. And then turf grass would not be allowed in park strips, landscape areas less than 8 feet wide, and on slopes that are greater than 15%. In non-residential areas, turf grass would not be allowed in non-residential areas unless it's an active recreation areas. So shopping malls, shopping centers that have no purpose for the grass, it would not be allowed. Only areas that had a specific purpose. Car washes would be limited to 35 gallons per vehicle. In our last discussion, we had suggested a 5-year goal to reduce that. We've eliminated that, so 35 gallon per vehicle would be the limit.
Scott, can I ask you something on that
Yes.
one really quick? So we're not going to revisit that in 5 years? I thought we said that, but we were going to revisit it in 5 years. I guess we might not be on the council.
Yeah, in
Council
that work
revisit in 5
meeting,
years.
the direction we were given is to eliminate that 5-year reduced goal. We had it in 5 years. We had a target value of 25 gallons per vehicle. Our direction was to just leave it at 35. We'll see how technology improves.
So in a sense, we do plan to revisit it, just seeing how technology. So I had another question because there was a place in there. Oh, on page 220 of the packet, it said recycling encouraged.
Yeah, so we would not require recycling. However you can get to the 35 gallons is up to you. What we are going to require is that a new facility is plumbed for the recycle system. You don't have to put it in, but our thought is, our feeling is that in the future, recycling is going to, technology will improve, recycling will be more cost effective. So if your facility is plumbed for it, it'll be easy to retrofit at that time.
Okay.
Also, from our last city council work meeting, golf courses would be allowed in the zoning, but they would have to have their own source of water. Same for amusement centers with water activities. They would be allowed in their zoning, but they would have to bring their own water.
Scott, could you elaborate on that? Because I don't know that translates, like what you exactly mean by bring your own water.
So if you want to develop a golf course, you're going to have to go out, you're going to have to find the water rights, you're going to have to develop the water, drill a well, treat the water, whatever it takes to provide water to that facility. The city will not provide the water for that facility.
I just wanted that to be clear because I know that gets to be a discussion. So I wanted that to be as clear as possible. So thank you.
And the ordinance makes it clear that it has to be wet water. It can't be, you bring in water rights to the city. You have to develop wet water and use your own source. And then the last item, major item, was the vesting. We've been working with the Washington County Water Conservancy District to get a process in place to where they would provide a guarantee of water. And so where it is now is if you're developing a property, you bring your development plans to the city. Once the construction drawings are approved, then you would go to before the construction drawings are approved, you have to bring a will serve letter from the Conservancy District. At that time, you would have paid your impact fees to the Conservancy District, which would be your guarantee of water. So you bring that documentation to us, we would approve the construction drawings, and then we give you a 1-year period of time to construct that project. If the project is not constructed in that 1-year period of time, basically your impact fees are refunded from the Conservancy District, and you've got to start the process over of getting that will serve letter and the impact fees paid.
Scott, what does the word constructed mean? To what point? To what point of construction are you speaking of?
so the project has to be accepted by the city. Construction has to be completed, it has to be accepted by the city.
So it has
So all the
to,
infrastructure is in the,
the infrastructure has to be in, or there has to be a like certificate of occupancy by that 1 year?
No.
well,
It's just horizontal, it's not vertical one at all.
Only the
Horizontal
infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
yeah, so
and-
when you're talking certificate of occupancy on a home or on a structure, you're going to be issued a building permit. That building permit, once that's issued, there's no going back at that point. So once the building permit is issued, you're guaranteed the water because you paid your impact fees, and we don't want to get a home halfway built and then, oh, sorry, we're
Right.
out of water. So
I
once,
just wanted to make sure everyone
yeah, so
understood
once the
what that
building
meant.
permit is issued for the structure, there's the guarantee of water.
And the question, I've had today, several people saying the will serve letter because the district's not going to require that till January, but we have in there and/or a will serve letter. So if you go pay your impact fees to the district and just bring us in the receipt, that vests you with the district and with us for water, right?
Yeah, so one problem that may occur that we may need, we're going to have to address is right now the Conservancy District, you cannot pay your impact fee for a subdivision. You can only pay the impact fee for your building permit. So there's going to be a period of time, and Jamie might be able to address this a little better, but well, go ahead.
So what we've built in, because there's going to be a gap between now and January 1 when the district program really kicks in, we've built into our ordinance a couple of ways to sort of cover that gap in the interim. One of the ways is during the permitting process, we've listed, just as you said, Mayor, a bunch of or that will still get you there without a will serve letter. Until the building permit process, but it's meant to at least start the communication. The other way is we've written in there that you either provide a will serve letter or some other documentation, and that other documentation may just be an email. Hey, come back and see us when you get a building permit, or it may be we're not taking all the permit fees, or it may be a receipt of an impact fee, or it may be something else in that 6-month period. And that's the way we've built it in right now. The other option the council has, if you don't like those two, is to not make the ordinance effective until January 1. Right now, we have it being effective as soon as it's published after passage, but certainly the council has the option, if you'd rather, making the ordinance effective January 1 as well. But I think what we tried to do as staff is certainly write in sort of a gap period options until the district's fully up with their program.
So what if they're not ready January 1?
Well, shame on them. That's, again, this is going to be a team sport, quite frankly. That's why we're working with all the cities and trying to be consistent and working with the district. If, in fact, they're not going to be up and running by January 1, I think maybe we come back and relook at how we're doing this and what we write. I think that certainly gives us the opportunity to do that. But that's the goal right now.
So just walk me through what's changing when we pass this. If I buy a lot and I want to go build a house, then I go pay my water impact fees. At that point, I'm issued. Right now, I'm not issued a will serve letter.
You are at building permit. So right now.
Hey, Jamie, can we back up one from that? Because
sure.
Say hypothetically, I'm a developer. I go in, I get my plat, I get the will serve letter because we require that now from the district when we plat that, right? We do all the infrastructure, and then they get everything done, and building ebbs and flows. Then they still have to go getting a building permit. They're still going to have to go get another permit for water. That developer's not guaranteed that water, even though he's laid out the cash, got all the infrastructure in, and then they go vertical, and there's no guarantee of water.
So once the subdivision is finalized, and the final plat is recorded and the city accepts that as a final subdivision, that's your guarantee of water. There's no taking it back at that time. The impact fees have been paid at the time of platting, so there's no taking it back.
No, sort of.
I guess that's my concern is that gap that we have going.
So, yeah, Scott's right. The way it is right now, prior to adoption, okay, as a status quo right now, a subdivider could come in, you could have a 25-lot subdivision, they put in all the infrastructure for that subdivision, they sell 20 out of the 25 lots, those get building permits, but 5 lots don't sell, and they're out there. In terms of the way the system works right now, you're absolutely right that those 5 lots that aren't built would have to come in and get water rights at the time they want to build. And if they wait 10 years, there may not be any. What we're trying to avoid with this ordinance is having that problem where mom and pop come in and buy a lot to retire on and discover later, oh, but wait, there's not water. That's why, as part of the process, we want to at least have a conversation until the district has their program up and running. That conversation still needs to be had. The district still needs to know what is being developed. They still need to be able to count the ERUs. And we still need to have some mechanism in place. And that's why we wrote some general language about other documentation, because it just may be an email, quite frankly, right now. And what we're trying to do is get that vested earlier. So Scott's scenario is absolutely, that's what we're trying to get to, is that once you have a subdivision, that subdivision has water, and you're not going to have those abandoned lots out there. That's what we're trying to prohibit and prevent. We want to fix that problem so that even 10 years from now, those 5 would still have water.
What we're saying is we're not fixing that right now. We have a gap.
No, our ordinance would fix that because it would, the vesting language says this is, if you can get those guarantees, whatever that looks like, and that it would be, the way we're treated right now is the district is a service provider. Just like an electricity service provider, just like a cable service provider, we're willing to provide you service. That's what we're going to look for in the gap.
But the district would say they're not a service provider.
So we've had multiple.
But they will be in January.
Yeah, so the problem is, they're completely on board. The problem is to get there, they've got to amend the regional water supply agreement, and then have all the other communities adopt it. So there's the will serve letter. There's also a couple of other items that they are addressing in those amendments. So it's going to take them a while to get that amended and get it approved by all the communities. Our last conversation with them, they're confident that January 1 they'll have it in place.
But really, technically, they are promising it because you're paying the impact fee. So in the interim, you're guaranteed because you paid the water fee.
In the interim, there may be, they may still be paying the impact fee at building permit rather than at subdivision, but we're going to have sort of that umbrella of, we're still going to let you vest.
Right. So the other thing that I think that this addresses is the idea that I know is a concern for the home builders, which is like the banking of water, right? So then we don't have the problem of somebody coming in and just saying, well, yeah, I'm going to do a 5,000 lot, subdivision, and I'm going to claim all of the water now. So.
And that really is the intent of that 1 year period to construct the subdivision. Is we don't think that a developer will come in with 5,000 lots and be able to develop that in a 1 year period.
That was the proposal that we received from the home builders, and like I say, we really want to thank them because we think that's really sort of a logical thing to do, is to limit that time period.
Yeah. Because
that levels the playing field in terms of what can you really build within a year.
So would it, don't kill me for this, but would it be wise for us to get the county headed the right way before we do this part of the ordinance? I think there's a lot of changes, and I know we've gone over this a lot, but there's a lot of changes in this ordinance. We have water conservation is one thing that we're working towards, but then we have some other parts of this that maybe they do relate to water, but not necessarily the conservation part of it. So, and I think there's probably some other questions out there on some of the other stuff in this ordinance that maybe doesn't relate directly to water conservation. So I'm wondering, I know, I'm sorry, but.
And like I say, I understand the concern, I do. The reason we think that adopting it now is important is because, again, you had adopted a temporary zoning ordinance in August that is going to set to expire, you adopted in February, it's set to expire in August. We wanted to have these regulations in place prior to that expiration. The other thing that this does is, you're right, it addresses a lot of the processing, the vesting, and some of these other things that, as well as the conservation that we think are important and that we're ready to do right now, regardless of where the district may be. I think we've tried to write it as best we can to cover the gap. But ultimately, it's up to you. You can make it adopted and not make it effective till January. You can adopt it and with the staff's gap language, or you can, move to continue the item, certainly, but just understand that that temporary zoning ordinance will expire. And things like the, the water acknowledgement letter, that goes away, would go away with that TZO if this wasn't adopted, and some of those other provisions, so.
Is there an opportunity to adopt, I think we're really close on the majority of this, and I really like where we've gone with it. I just have a few questions on a few items. Can we adopt the bulk of it and then have some leave for discussion?
This is your ordinance, this is your policy. We can adopt all, we can adopt some, we can commit to you to come back and tweak. We can do whatever you direct us to do, because this is your wheelhouse. This is what you want to do.
Do you have the questions now that?
I do. I have a few questions. I don't want to move away from this yet. Are you ready for a couple extra questions?
Sure.
So I want to, if you can go to the ordinance, it's on page 33 of the ordinance. What page is it on? The packet. So 33 of the ordinance, I just have access questions. It looks like for single-family homes, and then, so this would be 3310-7-6H. And these are just items that we hadn't discussed previously, so they're just kind of new, and I just wanted to get them clarified as I look at them. So it looks like we're scratching access requirements, so.
Yes, I can answer that.
Okay.
So, in a previous amendment to the code, I think this was the 2019 amendment, John, a provision had been added that said if you're going to build more than 12 houses or 12 lots, you had to have a secondary access. Is that the one you're talking about that we struck out?
There's two. The first one was a dead-end street system may not serve more than 30 single-family lots, dwellings.
So what we've done is we've stricken that language because the fire code regulates both of those. And we've deferred back to the fire code and allowed the fire marshal then to dictate when the secondary access needs to be, how long a cul-de-sac can be, how long a driveway can be that accesses lots. And so we took them out of our planning code and allowed the fire code to be the operative document.
So basically this was redundant, is what you're saying. It's still there.
It conflicted with the fire code. So we took it out of the planning code.
Okay. Okay, that was the first question, thank you. The second one I have is the Title 10, Chapter 23 items. This is the one that I have some general questions on. I don't know if we discussed it before. That is, so there's just a lot of items in there. If you go to Chapter 23, and then you go to item number 5. Let me get down here, sorry. Anyways, there's item number 5, and then there's section C, installation, then item number 1, 6, 7, 17, and then item E, number 9. All of these just have to do with just regulations on installation and it looks like governing of how landscaping is managed in residential and multifamily. The question I have is, do we want to get this in depth? That's the question. Meaning, and how are we going to police this? So we required additional staff, to go out and make sure that we're in November, everybody's watering once a week, things like that. I just want to that's the question I have.
So again, Title 23 is really the non-residential. It applies to the non-residential, not the residential. Residential has their own. So these are going to be more for the commercial. And these were a lot of the regulations that were recommended to us by the district. And then our landscape professionals at the parks, at the leisure services also weighed in and kind of did this. That's why you have these new landscape packages and some of those regulations. In terms of the watering, we talked about who's gonna do that. If you're watering more than whatever day. I mean, the reality is we get those reports anyway, and this would just give us the teeth to do something about it, because now we have the water wasting ordinance. We never really had teeth before. We get the reports all the time anyway. And that's what we respond to. So this just gave us some teeth.
Okay, just to clarify then, so these, when we're reading that in depth, it is multifamily / commercial, not individual homes.
So on single-family residential, what we envision is when they submit for their building permit, they just identify the square footage of lawn that's on their property.
And it says very specifically at the beginning, this doesn't apply to the
Single-family residential.
Single-family residential stuff.
I must have missed that because I was a little bit worried. So I'm not, okay. So I don't need like a specific amount of tree covering my yard or whatever.
Residential, you just need 2 trees.
Okay.
I have a lot of questions and concerns. I don't know if you guys are ready for me yet, though. So I got to admit, the freedom-loving American had a heart attack when I read through all of the pages of this. So I want to go through a few things and some of my concerns. So one of your slides had all of the indoor plumbing. That's already all been addressed, to my understanding, through the state in their overreach. So I think this only adds insult to injury to have that on ours where it's already been addressed by the state. So I would say that we at least remove those, anything that has to do with the indoor plumbing. My other concerns, so if you really look at 8-1-7, 8-1-12, I know this is an extreme example, but this literally would give government legal authority to potentially go in any resident's home who is hooked up to city water, and if we determine that they are wasting water, which that's what I want to clarify, because there's not, that I could see a specific standard unit of what is wasting water. I mean, is that my 15-minute shower? And then you could potentially, according to this ordinance, turn off my water immediately if you're deeming I'm wasting water by my 15-minute shower. So I think it's really important that it's not this general, like, what are we saying is water waste? What is that standard unit?
I don't know that it can be a standard unit of water
And that's my
quantity.
concern with giving government that type of power.
But obviously, when you have a broken water line and water leaving that's wasting water. When you have sprinklers, I think on here, the sprinkler system that is not, the majority of the water is not being, the majority of the water is not watering the lawn, but watering a hard surface area. That's wasting. I don't know that we can quantify a volumetric quantity of what water wasting is.
So my kid's birthday party, if we have the slip and slide out and some of the water is seeping onto the sidewalk, could you come shut my water off?
Again, this was not written for us to go inside the property. It's monitoring the meters, not necessarily going inside the home unless
One of the 8-1-7, it says there's a right of entry.
That's to the property to look at the meter, not into
Just
the home.
the meter.
It's just the meter. Obviously, we'd have to get a warrant if we're going to go inside the home.
Right.
We have to follow the Constitution.
Yeah.
And we know that. What we wanted to identify in 8-1-11 is what we consider waste. And that goes, what we tried to build in, Councilmember Tanner, is sort of the market rate system you had suggested.
Yeah.
So that if you take extra long showers, everybody pays X for this much water every month, right? And if you go over X, then you pay that excess fee. That's the way it's written. That's not going to be considered the water waste. That's going to be above your excess fee. Where the water waste comes in is if we see on the meter that it's really dramatically different, that it's clear that there's a leak somewhere, that you are constantly watering your lawn and it's really not going on the lawn, it's going into the stormwater system. Those are the kind of things we wanted to address and have some teeth to address. And the right of entry is just to look at your meter.
Yeah, and I think that's my concern is we would need to be more specific on that for me to feel comfortable, regarding any of that. Not that I don't trust y'all here, but I don't feel comfortable giving government that type of just broad power.
Councilwoman Tanner, can I add to that? I can't find it on here, but the way that it looked to me was that it's not an immediate, it's like you get a warning, there's all sorts of buffers for if there's a broken pipe or if there's really excessive waste that we reach out, we help you fix it. It sounded very compassionate to me, that it's really a way to reach out and help people to know. And in fact, the metering will help so that a lot of times, especially in some of the older homes downtown, like you don't even know you've got a broken pipe. So that metering could really help people to know if they're wasting water when they were completely unaware.
That's on page 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the government interest, and I think we've tried to say that throughout, the government interest is in resolving the problem, not being draconian and punitive. And that's really the way it's designed, that, you have this, please stop, hey, did you know, can you fix it, what can we do to help you kind of system. Obviously, we don't want to go to the water shutoff unless there's some really, really egregious circumstances. My guess is we're coming back to you guys before we ever do that. Certainly, we can write that in,
But this does give the power for immediate shutoff.
in the very extreme circumstances, yes.
And then on 8-1-8, I have concerns about that as well, as far as scarcity of water, essentially giving the mayor permission to eliminate water use if there's a, quote, scarcity of water. I mean, what does that mean? We're in a scarcity of water right now, right? I mean, what's that defined as?
I think it's important to note that 817 and 818 are already city ordinance. Those are not changing. The only things changing in those are the 817 and the 818.
The numbering changed, but
those are already city ordinance.
Jamie, you need to talk in the mic when you speak. Sorry.
Sorry.
We can hear you up here, but they can't hear you back there.
No, I was saying Adam is absolutely correct. We changed the numbering on those, but those actually exist as it stands right now.
Other questions?
I do on page 165, 10-1-3, any use of land that is not plainly designed as an allowed use in zone is prohibited. And I know this has already been part of the ordinance, and this issue came up with the denial of Zach Stuckey's business being denied to have a mobile business. And I think that part of the ordinance right there is the root cause of a lot of issues, and I think we do need to look into changing that, because it is not the people's responsibility to justify their use of liberty. It's the government's responsibility to justify our restriction of their liberties. It shouldn't be the other way around, so I do have an issue with that one. Let's see, I have a few other notes here. 10-5-5, I think Greg kind of touched on this, but I just think it's extremely tedious when the goal is to conserve. And if we're being honest with this ordinance, it's for new construction, and 90% plus of new construction are already doing these conservation efforts. And it should be the goal to educate, not mandate. And getting down to this nitty-gritty of, you have to have this plant or this amount of grass. So, if a plant dies, or does someone need to call and report that plant died? It's just, to me, getting way too out of hand, and I think we need to really go back to the drawing board on this.
Other questions for Jamie or Scott?
So I'm going back to this just because I just need some more clarification on those will serve letters. So the water district, hypothetically, in January, will have those will serve letters, and if that developer goes in, builds the infrastructure within 1 year, he's guaranteed water for how long? For those homes when he goes vertical?
Forever. Once that subdivision is accepted and recorded, final plat recorded, yeah, that's a guarantee of water forever. The impact fees have been paid, there's a guarantee.
It runs with the land, as they say.
Yeah, because here's what the concern is that we've had all this discussion for all this time, and we tried to reach out to obviously the building community and the contractors and developers, but all of a sudden we've got to this point, and I know I've gotten several phone calls where they're a little confused on where we are and what's going to be required of them. So that's where this concern comes from. And if they're confused and I'm confused, I'm smarter than most of them, so if I'm confused, they're really in trouble. But so that's where the disconnect right on this part of it is. I will say, going back to Councilwoman Tanner, I know that's already in the ordinance, but you're a good lawyer, Jamie. I could argue that premises means the land and the building.
You could, but I would tell you as a lawyer, don't you dare go in that house.
Very good. Good advice. But that's my issue here with this part on the will serve letter. I know that the water district's getting there.
So we could put language in there that the will serve letter would not be required until after January 1, 2023.
Because that's the only, and give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, because this isn't a public hearing. But the home builders, they're fine with this ordinance other than that part right there. The will serve letter language. Iffy.
So I know I'm going to get in trouble here, but even though it's not a public hearing, is there one person that could tell us what the issue is? Are you okay with that?
Stacy, if you want to come up, you're the one I'll let speak since you're the lawyer for Suba.
Stacy Young. Yeah, just a couple quick comments off the bat. There's been a lot of work, and there should be a lot of recognition of the work that's been done by your staff. Jamie, Scott, Sean have all been really engaged and done a lot of great work on this. Secondly, before we move on to the challenging part of this, I think it's worth pausing for a minute and noting that these are very strong conservation measures. That part of the ordinance is very strong. I haven't been able to find a city around that has a tighter restriction on turf maximum, for example, and that includes places like Las Vegas and Tucson that are usually kind of shown as the best example of this stuff. The issue with the vesting for us is a couple-fold. One is, I think we're 85% of the way there, and the way Jamie's drafted this and the way Scott's described it is consistent with that. But as you can see, there's still a fair amount of wiggle room in how this is ultimately going to tighten up over the next few months as you go through the interlocal negotiation and as we fine-tune some of the, you've raised some really good questions. I can tell you we spent dozens of hours on this already, and every alley we've gone down, we've ended up with consequences that we're really unhappy with on all sides. And so this is a very thorny, challenging problem to try to solve. And I do think we're close, and I think everyone's been engaged in a good faith way. Like Jamie said, it's been a team effort. But that piece, and it's not as simple as just kind of, in our minds, just postponing that until January, because there is a good chance that some of this is going to change. One thing I would suggest is maybe just adopting a new temporary ordinance for 6 months that gets to the conservation elements that maybe we're relatively comfortable with, at least stripping out the stuff that's not controversial, and reinstituting the acknowledgement letter and letting the rest of this stuff set a little bit more before adopting a comprehensive one. Otherwise, I think you're probably going to be back at the drawing board in 6 months tweaking this anyway, is just my hunch, just given how many twists and turns this has been. So, it's, again, Jamie, it is a very challenging drafting exercise, but those would be our concerns. I don't think it's as easy as just a few tweaks tonight.
And sorry, we actually agree that I think we're going to be back reviewing this in 6 months after we have a better idea of working with the district. I would rather do that as an ordinance, not a temporary ordinance. But knowing that obviously this is a work in progress and we're going to probably have to make some refinements and some tweaks as we go along. Again, but it's your policy. This is your wheelhouse, and it's we're running out of water. We're doing our best to make some measures that kind of cover that. But and certainly the staff is committed to continue working on this. This is not the end. Hopefully we've put in language that is workable. We're going to know really quickly if it's not and let you know. But we think it is. And
the TZO expires when?
The temporary zoning ordinance, I think, expires August 6th.
Can I make one more comment? The concern, and maybe the 6-month, the January effective date solves some of this, but today, like you said, Jimmy, the confusion out there is considerable, and there's already quite a bit of controversy and confusion around this issue broadly. And so today, this goes into effect. I'm not sure how prepared your staff is to implement it tomorrow. I can tell you if you showed up at the district tomorrow asking for a will serve letter, they would send you back down the hill. So and I don't know that they're equipped to, they can't send you an email either. Today, their posture and their policy is you have no guarantee of water until you pay your impact fee, and you cannot do that until building permit. So everything in the development process up until then today is what it has always been. We've just made more explicit lately, which is you don't have a guarantee of water until you have a guarantee of water. But I do think it would just further confuse and create controversy in the, on all sides of this.
I would just find it really irresponsible as well in our positions to be passing a law that we know going into it needs changed. To me, that just doesn't make sense.
I appreciate Stacy's thoughts, and I tend to agree with him, but I do have to echo him on the amount of work Jamie and Scott have both done on this, as well as staff, to get this ordinance, and it's been painstaking, and Scott has spent a lot of time with the stakeholders, and they've had the opportunity to speak on several different issues and about water. So I think we need to reiterate that a lot of work has been done to this point, but I am concerned for the reasons Stacy says is there's that gap that we can't quite fill yet, and before we put it out there to put home builders or developers or whatever to hold them to something that we can't fulfill yet. That will come. And I think, everything you're doing about secondary water, the graveyard wash, and I think we have to congratulate the residents of Washington County who really have put these measures of conservation on themselves, like Sun River, who's taken out so much turf and done all these other things that are positive.
So just for discussion, I do think we need to pass something tonight. I think we need to put these in effect. I think now's the time. I think we've got to really close. So the things that we have that are issues with, I got calls today too from some builders just with concerns. The exact concerns have been addressed. So there is confusion out there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how about if in 10-1- what is it, 3? And that last, before we get to that last one that talks about the will serve letters, if we put a line in there that said effective January 1, then this one would be in place, and then it wouldn't be that particular provision wouldn't be in place until then. It's a simple fix.
Yeah. What if we just forego the changes on Title 10 until we get it right, if that's possible? Because that Title 10 is the one that,
Yeah, Title 10, but it's not, because there are other changes that
What-
are
what-
sort of critical right now. You don't
okay,
wanna-
tell
you
me
don't
what
wanna
those critical
delay
ones are.
All of Title 10.
In Title 10.
So, again, having the 10-1 stuff is where I think most of this is coming from. But the rest of the rest of the chapters in Title 10, I don't think there's, changing all the definitions and having all the definitions in Chapter 2, changing the requirements in the agricultural zones, changing all of the landscapes in Chapter 23, changing the subdivision process in Chapter 25. All of those things, changing the zoning in Chapter 4, those are the kind of things that we addressed, not just this process in Chapter 1. If Chapter 1's an issue, certainly we can remove the Chapter 1 changes.
So even just Chapter 1, we could, because that's where all this, I think the confusion
That's where the vast
is
majority
in Chapter 1.
Absolutely.
I was looking for Stacy. Isn't it in Chapter 1?
John?
Council, what do you want to do?
Looking for the language here.
Mayor, I'll just say while we're making that decision, we knew this was going to be really hard, right? I mean, this is the most complex issue that we'll probably ever face, and it was interesting. I was reading. I don't know if I'm sure you guys have all looked at that book that's written by Carl Brooks and Doug Alder about Washington County history. And it's really interesting because they come into this valley and it says they come in the confluence of the Virgin and the Santa Clara at the place the Indians called Tonnequint. They visualized a future settlement there, and then they talk about how the streams would sustain only a few families. And so we've come so far, and then a few pages later it says they operated under the Mormon formula of cooperative labor. So I just wanted to share that with all of our discussions here. I'm so impressed. This is such a hard issue for us to solve, and I agree with Councilman MacArthur. I think we need to pass something tonight. I think that spirit of cooperative labor is why it matters that we work together to conserve water, to keep our economy and our civilization here going, and the fact that we came together with all of our cities, our county, our water district, our home builders associations, that we've brought so many people together that really, really care about keeping this community amazing and great, and that water is that one thing that could shut everything down if we don't deal with it in a way that is super responsible and that we don't embrace that spirit of cooperative labor. So I'd like to see us at least get in front of the conservation part of this. I like that we're going to also have there be a market rate approach to it that helps people to be responsible and pay what the water's worth. And if we have to wait on the will serve letter portion until that's ready, then let's do that. But let's cooperate and get something done so that because I mean it's helping everyone really at the end of the day. We want our builders to be able to continue building. We have an extreme housing shortage. We need that to happen, and we need it to happen in an ecologically responsible way.
I do think it's important, though, that we're not just passing something to pass something. I think we all recognize that conservation is important. I don't talk to one person in the city who doesn't recognize that it's important. But when it comes to legislating and making something law, I think we owe it to our citizens to give them the benefit of the doubt that, through the education, we can educate, not mandate. I mean, I haven't talked to one builder or developer. I live in a brand new neighborhood. Everyone's doing these conservation efforts already, and, the state has already done all of these indoor plumbing mandates, so I just don't know why we're making it more complicated than it needs to be.
I could share with you why I think, we have really amazing developers in our community, but they would even tell you that every once in a while there's a bad egg. And, if there isn't some guidelines there, you have the majority who are just going to say, I'm going to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And then you're going to have possibly, it's like, why do we make laws for our streets? Everybody should just drive cautiously, right? But we know that there are people who choose not to. And so we've had to say, how do we do the very best we can? So I agree. I think we should mandate as little as possible always. But in this particular situation, I think where water is like the most dire thing that we have, there's got to be some guidelines so that even though most people would probably just do the right thing and conserve as much as humanly possible and, make the water stretch as far as it can, we've got to have some guidelines so that we don't have somebody come in and just do extreme overuse, or like this, our temporary ordinance goes away and somebody comes in and just puts in, a totally irresponsible car wash that we don't have any teeth to control because we didn't put anything in our ordinance. And so just, setting those boundaries for the safety of everyone.
But where do we draw the line on that too? Because with as broad as some of these sections of the ordinance are written, I mean, literally someone could be in big trouble for having a slip and slide in their yard, or essentially taking too long of a shower, or what are we deeming scarcity of water, and why are we approving all these new developments if we're saying that you can't even have a slip and slide in your yard?
I don't think we would ever say that. This goes back to the C-store that was wasting 100,000 gallons of water every freaking month and would not fix their pipe. This goes after people like that. This is like, we get a call from, Trevor tracks me down one day and says, your mother-in-law has used 80,000 gallons of water this month and she's got Alzheimer's and doesn't even go outside, and gave us the opportunity to go over and say, oh crap, there was a broken pipe and we got it fixed. Those are the things, really terrible water wasters, because there are some. There's some that don't care. I go by a restaurant and they have 2 broken sprinkler heads shooting straight in the air. I've had to call Renee because they just don't care. And it's in the middle of the day. So it's things like that. If my grandkids come to my house and want to run through the sprinklers for a little bit, I'm going to let them run through the sprinklers or have a slip and slide. So it's for the extreme water wasters.
So I think we need to specify that within the ordinance.
I guess maybe I read it differently, because I thought that was already specified. I mean, it says that.
That's what we tried to do.
Okay, yeah. It seemed to me that it was very specific and very compassionate. There wasn't any like we see you wasting and we're shutting you down. It was like, we see that there's an extreme waste and we give you a warning and we help you fix it and we give you all these options. So
I know, getting back to Councilman Hughes's question, one of the reasons why we think it is still important to adopt Chapter 1 is that again, we've tried to build in language to keep the status quo and have that gap coverage. And I think that is an educational component that we can, sit down with developers as they come in and do that. But there are 2 things in there that I think are really critical. Hopefully they can hear me. There are 2 things in that Chapter 1 that are critical. Number 1 is the continuation of that water acknowledgement letter that I think is important. And number 2, it's that timeline, that narrowing of the timeline, so that if we don't adopt the Chapter 1, then you can have these big 5,000 lot subdivisions come in and try to gobble up the water. And that's, working with the home builders, that's what we were trying to prevent now that the cat's out of the bag, as it were, and really trying to limit that. And I think that's one of the critical parts of Chapter 1 that we would recommend adopting the whole package at this time.
What section is that in?
That's in Chapter 1. 1-15.
So if we were to.
10-1-15.
Yeah, so if we were to say, if we left out chapter 1, sections 1 through 12?
Well, one is,
Sorry,
chapter 1, section 1, section 3 is the one that has the water acknowledgement, so you want to keep that one. But that's also the one that has the will serve language. So, I mean, again, we've tried to cover that gap. We know that there's going to be sort of this period that staff is, with your permission, staff is going to do the best we can with the language that we have to get us through that process without, we're not going to stop a development because they don't have a will serve letter. We know that there's that gap that we have to address, and we built language in there that we can use.
So what you're saying is, if, say, we were to strike chapter 1, then there could be like a run on the bank type situation over the next few months, and that's what we're trying to prevent.
And certainly
which I think could be valid concern.
Yeah.
And if we were to pass this ordinance tonight, Jamie, let's say a builder starts the process tomorrow, are we going to give them a little bit of time to say, this is what you have to do, so they're all up to speed?
Well, so if somebody came in, if Bob here comes in tomorrow with a new application for his subdivision, by the time he gets it to the process where he would be required to do a will serve letter, it's going to be probably after January 1 anyway. But we're going to be working with him. We're going to be working on everything that he needs to do. We're going to be processing that application. We're going to be having the conversations about water. He's going to be having the conversations about water with the district. And by the time we get to that end point, whether it's a building permit, whether it's final construction plans, whether it's a final subdivision plat, we're going to know where we are. And we're going to know way ahead of them where we are. To the extent something has to be adjusted, fine, let's come back and do it. But we think we've built in the language now that can get us there. So
I understand the concern, with people run on the bank type situation when this is coming in. So I think language is good for that. What I would like to hope we could address, and I don't have the exact answer, but what I'd like to see if we could address is just to make it clear that, if the Water Conservancy District is not giving will serve letters now, then you're okay.
And that's what we tried to do, all the
concern.
Is
there a way to make that clearer?
We can, in that paragraph that talks about it, prior to receiving approval for your application or your construction drawings, where you have to get the will serve or other documentation, what we've built in there is prior to either the construction drawings or the plat or a building permit. We've put all those in there. We've said that even if you have all these other things, that one thing is not going to hold you up because of all the ors. And then we've said any kind of documentation that you can get from the district saying that, yeah, they're going to allow the building permits to get water, to pay for their water or whatever else that we need to do. So as staff, we wanted to be as flexible as possible during this gap period and build that language in, knowing that when a will serve letter comes in, we wanted to have that term defined. We wanted to have that process already established so that when it comes into place and that's done, then we can implement it.
So is it educational component? I mean, I know there's a lot of confusion out there. So I'm just trying to, I just want people to feel comfortable.
I know that there's a lot of confusion because we've received the same phone calls. I think John has, Scott has, I have. We're trying to answer them as best we can. We talked to, we've talked to Stacy, we've talked to Bob, we've talked to the builders around and tried to explain it. We've talked to members of the Planning Commission. I think that they understand, once we explained what we've built in, that they're okay. Is it perfect? Well, I tried my best, but no. But again, there's a question factor out there that I can't really address until it's addressed. So we've done the best we can.
Jamie, I know you, John, and Scott have done a tremendous amount of work, so please, I acknowledge that. I'm just wondering if this piece, if we table this piece for 2 weeks and come back to it in 2 weeks, because I understand what you're saying, you really are, in essence, trying to protect them. I just think they're John spent probably half hour on the phone going over a few things with me. But I feel like just for clarity, rather than just push something through tonight, that we step back and just look at this one piece and revisit it in 2 weeks.
And do you, maybe that includes a meeting with the Home Builders Association, if that's the concern?
I think it could be anybody who wanted to show up and be part of that public meeting.
Wouldn't we need to have a work meeting discussion again?
I mean, that's the question. Would you want it as a work meeting? I don't know that we have public hearing noticing. I don't know that we can have a public hearing necessarily, but, and again, you know, we've got this sort of looming date under the temporary zoning ordinance.
Well, I'm saying we could pass a lot of this tonight, you know, the conservation pieces of it, but I'm wondering that this piece that seems to be a little bit of confusion, I wonder if we just had another stakeholders meeting and address those issues, not necessarily a work meeting, but I don't know if that's allowed or how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, schedule a work session for next week, invite whoever wants to come, have that be one of the agenda items. Absolutely.
Go ahead tonight and pass everything we feel comfortable with.
I mean, if it kind of sounds, council, like from the discussion, you probably just might want to take another week or two and just really go through it, make sure you're comfortable with it, and then plan on 2 weeks for adoption. In the meantime, get all those questions answered, bring the stakeholders in, give them more opportunity if they feel like they need time.
It's 2 paragraphs.
I guess that's what I'm saying. There's 2
Yeah.
paragraphs. If we could pull that out and pass the rest of it.
I like the city manager's suggestion. I don't think we need to wait 6 months. Let's get it figured out. Come back, pass the whole thing.
So I just want to raise an issue that if you don't pass something by the time the TZO ends, it reverts back to the existing statute. You can't extend it.
And that's a good point.
So-
It does seem like we're close. It seems like maybe with one more discussion, work session, go through the questions. I'd like to think we could answer those for the council and get you where you want. Ms. Tanner, we might not be able to find agreement on some of the issues you've raised, but you know, they're valid, and appreciate you mentioning those. But yeah, take that time, week or two. That would be my recommendation.
So 2 weeks isn't, we're still going to stay within there. I like the idea of having a meeting just to resolve all the concerns with our builders. I'd like to propose, well, I don't know if we can, I think we should, I won't do the proposal, but I think we should add it to our work session next week, have that open discussion for this, just to get everybody on the same page. If we're there and we're covered, just to make sure it's explained. And I think we're really close. I think we're close to having it approved in
So it'd be a motion to
2 weeks.
continue, yeah.
So here, if
To
everybody's
continue?
okay.
Yeah, I'll second it. Go ahead.
So I'll make a motion, we continue this item number 6 for, to be considered in the city council in 2 weeks. I'd also like to make a motion, and add to this motion is to.
Is there a meeting in 2 weeks?
We'll
make it work.
At the next city council meeting. Then at our next work meeting, add this as an agenda item.
Well, if we're continuing it, do we have to notice? I mean, it just.
You just put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
So do we have a meeting on the 28th?
So the work meeting would be the 21st.
The work
and then
meeting on the
next
21st.
meeting would be the 28th.
No, I think we should have a work meeting on the 21st. I think we, just like we did today, I think we should schedule it before, and if we want to start at 3 o'clock instead of 4, and make sure we have enough time, or pick it up after the regular meeting if we need to. Right. Just like we did today, and if we need to start early, we can do that.
So start at 3 next week.
I mean, I think you might need more than an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so the work meeting on the 21st, and then the next city council meeting is what, August 4th? Is that what it is? Or
28th.
Full, 28th is a full meeting? So then,
No. The 21st is a full meeting
So
too.
We can make it a regular meeting. We can make it a regular meeting.
I propose we make it a regular meeting so we don't get up to the deadline.
Right.
And
John corrected me, it expires the 3rd, we think. But that's the debate. We have to actually count the days, and February is short, so, yeah.
Okay, so we continue this till the 28th, have a work meeting on the 21st. It's a motion.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Scott, you're still up.
Item number 6 is consider approval of a resolution in support of a funding application to implement the advanced metering infrastructure project that we have planned. I want to talk to you a little bit about AMI, advanced metering infrastructure. We talk about conservation, and the Bureau of Reclamation has a grant funding opportunity for efficiency in water and energy. So what this grant is, what we want to apply for is matching funds to implement an AMI system throughout the city. What that entails, every home right now has a meter, and on top of the meter is a register that has a mechanical dial on it that reads in 10 gallons, and then every meter has a ERT, electronic radio transmitter. So every month, our meter readers drive by each home, and this transmitter transmits to their computer in their car, the radio receiver in their car, and records how many gallons of water was used throughout that month. What an AMI system does is it provides near real-time water data. So the ERT would be replaced with a cellular module that would, in 15-minute intervals, would transmit data back to our server, collect all the data for water that everybody's using. So coupled with the AMI system is a customer portal system. So every customer will have the ability to download an app on their phone and know exactly how much water that they're using at any given time. The way this is going to save water throughout the city is right now, these meters and the AMR system that we have, the existing system we have, we're able to identify leaks because when we get that data, we can download 40 days worth of data. And so we can see when leaks occur. The problem is we're driving by once a month. So if we drive by your house on the first day of the month and you happen to have a leak that starts on the 5th day of the month, it's not till the next month that we would be notified, that we'd be alerted through our system, and then by the time we process that data, notify the customer, it could be 30 to 45 days later, and you've had a leak for that amount of time. With the new AMI system, you can set up alerts so that it'll alert you within minutes of that leak occurring. So through better leak detection, we'll be able to save water. Also, just the fact that people, there are studies out there that would suggest that people will conserve about 6.5% more water knowing exactly how much water they're using and when they're using it. So changing their behavior because of the data that's available will also help save water. In addition to that, we've got several meters out there that are over 20 years old, and so we would be replacing about 3,500 meters that are just not as accurate as the newer meters are. So this project would, for the most part, the meter would stay the same. We would change the ERT, so instead of measuring in 10 gallons, the new electronic ERTs measure in tenths of a gallon, and then we would be replacing the electronic radio transmitter with a cellular device that would tie to the AMI system. So that's the project. So the resolution would be for the City Council showing support of the project and support of the application for the grant funding. We anticipate that the project will be about $8.6 million over about a 4-year period. We're going to apply for the grant. This says that we were going to apply for $2 million. We're actually going to apply for $4 million for this grant. So we're hoping that the Bureau of Reclamation will award the grant and kick in a little less than 50% of the cost of the project.
Then who gets the first ones?
Funny you should mention. So the manufacturer that we're looking at going with, he's given us an opportunity to test drive 10 of these. So if any city council or mayor is interested, we can, within a few weeks, we can have those installed and give you access to that app.
I'd love to test drive it.
Would we be spending that money? So this is matching funds to upgrade, but we have to change stuff anyways. Is that correct? So would we? Did I hear that correct? Meaning,
yeah. So we've got about 32,500 meters that are out there, and about roughly 3,000 of them are old enough that we'd need to replace them anyway. But yeah,
that's what I mean. Would you start with those old ones? Would you just start replacing them when they need to be replaced? That's how you decide where to use the first ones?
Yeah, we would target those, and then we'd also target certain areas of the town, probably starting on the south side, because another thing this will do is eliminate the need for our meter readers to drive by, right? So we've got 3 meter readers that put about 105,000 miles a year on their car. We're using about 4,200 gallons of fuel a year just driving around and reading the meters, which that would eliminate, for the most part, the need for those meter readers to be driving around. So there's savings on meter readers, there's savings on fuel, there's savings on vehicles. But really, our focus and our reason for doing this really is for the water conservation aspect of it.
I've talked to other cities who are using this, and they say it has helped immensely because people pay attention. You know, they don't just wait until their monthly bill comes. They're looking at it all the time.
Yeah.
With that grant money, are there any specific strings attached to it that we should be aware of?
No, because the majority of that cost goes to the actual materials. What we plan on doing, it's going to take 3 to 4 years to do it, but what we plan on doing is having our 1 or 2 of our crews do it. So we wouldn't be hiring outside contractors for it. We would do this when we have spare time, I guess. Really, the only strings attached are like any other federal grant. You've got a lot of reporting that we'll have to do throughout the process of the grant.
But they're not making us do anything different than what we would normally do. We're just reporting. Okay.
Yeah. And there's no environmental concerns because we're just replacing existing infrastructure.
how many of these can you get with that grant? Were you thinking?
We're gonna try for $4 million. The grant has different funding levels, so we're gonna try to get $4 million.
How many meters?
How many meters?
So our goal is to replace all of them, 32,600.
And that grant would cover replacing everything?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's about half of it. The total cost of the project is 8.2, 8.3, somewhere in there. If we get $4 million from them, we're going to have to come up with the additional that we have. We already have that budgeted. We already had planned on over a period of time transitioning to AMI. So we've planned out the next 3 years of funding for AMI. So this would help us do that.
So it's kind of budget neutral. It's just a grant that we'd get to help us be. I mean, we're already spending the money.
We've already got the money budgeted to start the process. This just gets it done in a 3-year period instead of 6 or 7 or 8 years that it would have taken us without the grant.
Oh, okay.
If I would have paid attention to Mr. Taylor's math class, I could have done the math. But how much are those meters, like, to the consumer on a new construction?
So on a new construction, when you pay your impact fee, water impact fee, you also pay the meter fee, $228.
So that is factored in. So they're not going to come up and we're not going to say, okay, now this is $500 instead of $300.
No, there won't be any additional charge to to the homeowner.
Scott, I have a secondary question. So I've been thinking, you know, I know that you guys have been talking a lot about how is the district going to keep track of inventory, like what we're using and exactly, you know, how much are we using, how much do we have left, all those things that are so important for us to know. So is this how it's going to be tracked? Is this going to be the system that's used to really keep track of that? And so like, are we sharing our data with the district, and
Yeah,
the
we
other
are.
city's going to be doing that too?
And the data will be the same that we share with them, because we're just sharing them monthly volumes.
Yeah.
The beauty of this is the granularity of the data that would be available to the homeowner.
Same data, just that's available to the homeowner. It's my opinion that this could be more effective, as effective or more effective in conserving water than that last thing we just spent 45 minutes talking
It would be
about.
an additional tool that would
Because
enhance that conservation effort.
As was mentioned by Councilwoman Tanner, most people will do everything they can in the spirit of community if they just have the information. And this is a great education tool about how much water you use. I just learned in talking to Trevor, because I've been severely worried about how much water I use in watering livestock, and thinking that I'm going to be one of those high water users. Well, my water bill at my home is way more than what I water my livestock with, even though I've had 60, 70 head there. So the proper education, the proper information, this could be very good. I'm in favor of making a motion that we approve the resolution supporting the funding application and implementation of the AMI.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Natalie. All in favor, starting with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Motion carries. Tawny.
Yes. We'd like you to consider a resolution designating and appointing Sean Guzman as the city's representative for the Southwest Mosquito Abatement and Control Board for calendar year 2022, or until such time as a successor has been designated and appointed. In February, you appointed Betty Ariel, but due to some recent obligations that she's taken on, she's no longer able to perform that, and so our recommendation is to have Sean Guzman take that position.
I move that we follow the recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Motion carries. Jamie was going to do this next one.
I
You
can
wanna
do it.
Tawny?
Sure. So several of our ordinances allow for appeals to a hearing officer, so we need to get a hearing officer appointed. We recommend that you appoint Lynn Cresswell as an administrative hearing officer. He, I believe, was a city manager of South Salt Lake. For years, he does this work for other municipalities, and it would just be on an hourly rate to have him, when those appeals occur, kind of on board and on deck to handle them for us.
How did we find him? He has an incredibly impressive resume.
Very well known
Yeah,
in
Lynn,
the community.
Yeah, Lynn's
Wow.
worked for years for the League of Cities and Towns, just really understands all of the issues that we would be involved in as a municipality. He's also an attorney, and so, you know, I guess you've seen the,
Yeah.
the background.
Yeah,
Lynn's
it's
very well qualified,
really-
as qualified a person as you'll find.
So instead of hiring 3 hearing officers, you can get one that can do land use, animal control, and employment issues. So Jimmy will no longer have to be, and Danielle no longer have to be on an animal control appeal board, because the ordinance actually says it goes to a hearing officer, so.
Approve it quickly.
Mary, you look for a motion?
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution appointing Lynn Cresswell as an administrative hearing officer.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, starting with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Thanks. Hey, Carol, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Very good.
Okay?
Thanks.
How's your leg?
is harder, do you think, than the first? Yeah.
So then I got extra work in that leg. You know what I mean? Like I work that leg out, I work this leg out. Yeah. It's completely different. One day I'm going to fly down these stairs, but for right now, one day I'm going to fly down
Okay, we're going to get started. Okay, Carol.
Okay. All right, this next item is, it is a zone change amendment for item or project to be known as Smith's Marketplace. I'm just going to hop right into this. There's actually two parts to this zone change amendment. As we look at the aerial, the location, we're here in the Sun River area off of Pioneer and Sun River Parkway. General plan is mixed use and zoning map is PDC. So the first part of this change is to change the Atkinville interchange area master plan. So right now, this location is right here, and I need to do it again. So it's mixed use, and the applicant is requesting to change this over so that it's community commercial and it matches up with the stuff that's across the street that is community commercial. That's the first part, and then the second part is to approve the new Smith's Marketplace wanting to go in this location. So here's the site plan just laid out on the property. I'm just going to quickly go over some of the points about this project, and if you have any questions, you certainly can ask me at any time or at the end. So here's the site plan again. For access, there's several accesses off of Pioneer, Blue Grassway, Havasu Drive, but there will be no accesses off of Arrowhead Canyon Drive, and that's the area that backs up to residential. They do have a buffer with a 6-foot wall and landscaping back there to protect the residential development behind. So moving in, just zooming in, so you kind of see some up-close details. The prescription area pharmacy will be here for the drive-up pickup. For online shopping, the people will actually park over here to this on the side of the store. On the rear, when the semi-trucks come in, and this was something that Smiths did work with the residents of Sun River, they wanted to make sure the semi-trucks came in, did their stuff, and left, and didn't disturb the neighborhood. So they do come in and drop off their deliveries, and then they take a left out here on Havasu, so they're not going back into the subdivision.
Carol, can I ask
yes.
you about that really quick? Because
Yes.
it is confusing. It shows the arrow going the other way on Havasu right there.
Right here.
So I was confused by that.
You know what?
Like,
There was another arrow there, but I erased it because the arrow said it was taking a right, and it's going to be a left turn only there.
Oh, a left
so
only.
you can go in here, but when the semi trucks are coming out, they can only go left.
They can only go left. And
Yeah.
how are they coming in? If they're having to cross all of the other.
They're coming in right here.
And they just interact with the online shopping or whatever. I guess most of them come at night. So okay.
Yeah. So they've made enough room so that the trucks can maneuver around. They'll just come in, back in, and then take this way. And the trucks wouldn't even be able to make that turn to the right the way they have this exit drawn in there. So they will have some employee parking here on the side. This is the south side. And then also they'll have, which is unique, some golf cart parking for the Sun River and possibly Desert Color residents. For parking, they're definitely meeting the regulations. They are going a little bit above and beyond. They have the golf cart spaces, and they will have bike spaces. And then this area right here will be for the future electronic vehicle charging stations. Lighting, they did present a lighting plan. They will be required during site plan to meet all of our regulations. This one, there's a few areas that didn't quite meet it, but we'll go over it during site plan review. For the signs, they will be having, of course, wall signs on the store, but they'll be having a 9-foot high monument sign on Pioneer Road, a 30-foot high monument sign also next to it on Pioneer Road. This will be their main sign, and the 9-foot one will be for their gas station. The fuel station will be right along Pioneer. And I should mention this area here, it says future development. This is assuming probably a fast food place or some other type of development could go here. On the signs, they have a Sun River master sign plan, and so they're following it except for this blue square here. That's that 30-foot sign. They're just moving it from this side of Pioneer over to that side. And all these other dots, they're actually doing quite a few less signs than the dots show, because every one of these dots is a sign, and they're not having that many. Just one here, and then, well, 1, 2 in this area. So they will be having, of course, I don't believe they have their pylon signs up yet for the big ones off of I-15, but they'll have a Smith's Marketplace up there, and then their fuel sign will be like that. Moving on to the elevations, 37 feet 8 inches for the maximum height. We've got the front of the store, which is the east elevation, the rear, the south, and then the north, the two sides. Some perspectives on 3D perspectives on how this will look. So this is if you're driving up Havasu Drive, this is what you'll see. And then this one is from Bluegrass Way, the angle looking back at Smith's. A couple perspectives in the rear so you can see what they're doing with the buffering. We have lots of trees, and then there's a wall back there. Once again, trees, bushes, and then the wall to kind of protect the loading area from the residential area. There is a material board here, which I highly intoxicated myself by gluing all those pieces that fell off during shipment. this earlier today, so you want to enjoy that, there it is. Or you can look
Do you have
here.
more glue left?
I have a lot. Yeah, Brenda got me this huge, huge thing, so I have got a ton.
Carol, one question about behind the building.
Yeah.
You know, the city trail comes up.
Yes.
And ends. Is that going to be trail that connects? Because then the city trail starts again over.
Yes.
By
It
I-15.
will be.
Okay.
This will be a 10-foot trail back here.
Okay.
And then it'll connect into the trail that
Yeah.
goes down
Okay.
that way. So yes. And something I will mention too, there was concern, most of the residents in Stone River that wanted to take their golf cart to Smith's were concerned about access onto Arrowhead Canyon Drive, because right now they can't drive their golf carts on that road as a public road. There is an agreement that the city has on what roads they can ride their golf carts on. So part of this, part of the conditions, one of them is to allow them to access Arrowhead Canyon Drive so they can come down. Havasu will be a private drive, so they'll be able to go on that. So that will be a change so that they can get access to the Smiths. And then we did take this to the Planning Commission. We had a public hearing. There were 4 comments at the Planning Commission, and since then, Christina, I believe, has sent you the messages that we've received between the Planning Commission and now. The Planning Commission did recommend approval. There were 3 conditions. They're listed here. One is updating that right-of-way easement agreement. The other one is moving of that sign, and then the third one is that the applicants, which they already have been working with staff on, lining up one of the entrances on so that it lines up with Sandpiper, which originally they didn't have the entrances lined up, but they are planning on doing that. So, yes, Danielle, do you have a question?
Well, I always do. Sorry,
you pulled the
I have
mic.
so many questions. No, there was one comment, and I didn't drive out to see it, so I'm speaking semi-uneducated about this, but there was a comment from one of the residents about the speed limit signs, that they're a little messed up right there in front of this space. So I mean, I guess that's just part of a secondary conversation that we need to have while this is being built. They said there's like a 45 mile an hour, and then immediately there's like a 35 or 30 mile an hour right in that same stretch across the front of here.
Okay.
So I don't see Cameron here now, but maybe Wes, do you know if that's going to be fixed? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we'll need to get that fixed because that's not good. So that's all I have for the presentation. Any questions for me, or there is representation from the applicant here?
It sounds from the residents of Sun River that they worked well together with the developer on this one.
They did. It was a really good partnership, I think. At the beginning, I think they were a little hesitant, but boy, they just jumped right in. And obviously, that you can't please everyone, but I think the most part, the residents were really happy with the dedication of the Smiths crew and Darcy's crew to just come in and kind of keep them updated on their plans. Thanks, Carol.
Any questions for Carol? If you don't have any questions or questions for the developer, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance amending the Atkinville Interchange Area Plan Development Commercial Zone to change the designation of a portion of Area 3.1 from mixed use to community commercial, and to allow construction of a new Smith's Marketplace and Fuel Center on approximately 15.96 acres located at the southwest corner of Bluegrass Way and Pioneer Road for a project known as Smith's Marketplace, with the recommendations from Planning Commission, which I cannot pull up. There they are. The right-of-way easement agreement with the city for the golf carts. The Sun River Master Plan is amended to allow the location change of the 30-foot pylon sign, and the applicant will work with staff on the alignment of the access on Sandpiper. And then I would say additionally that staff would also
fix the speed limit signs on Pioneer Road.
Second.
Who seconded it? Me. Okay. Motion by Danielle, seconded by Michelle. All in favor, starting with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Dan.
Ready? All right. This is Water's Edge at Desert Color Shores. This is the next phase in the resort. You'll see another phase. Actually, you'll see another few phases next week. But this will finish up phase 5 in Desert Color Resort. This is lot 545. And it is adjacent to the lagoon. Land use map. This is the zoning map. Of course, it's PDR, which allows residential, which is what this is. So you can see here that there's 5 buildings being proposed. These 4 adjacent to the lagoon, which is right here, each have 3. It's 3, right? Yeah, 3 units per building. So that's a total of 12 along here. The rest of the units are in this one single building. We'll take a look at the elevations here in just a minute, and you can see what they look like. But that's kind of the breakdown. These have 3, and then the rest of the units are all in here for a total of 44 units. This up here is a little kind of a seating area, a little civic space for those units, and then there's just these 2 last lots. This one will just be a single family lot, and I believe that 143 here at the bottom is as well. Yeah, so those will be just 2 more single family homes there. Again, this is just kind of a look at how the civic space lays out. You can see that there's a large majority of the civic space out here by the road by Akoya Pearl and Alice Blue Lane, and then there is this piece again here adjacent to the lagoon. These are those 3 plexes that are adjacent to the lagoon. Very similar in architectural style and materials. And you can see there in front of you, there's the materials board for these buildings, but primarily stucco, metal roofs, board and batten siding, stone, shiplap. And they're 40 feet tall, and again, all very similar. Each have garages. Some of the parking is in sort of more of a carport area that you can kind of see right there. And then there's also parking adjacent to these, so that all the parking is within close proximity of these buildings. And again, this is just the renderings of those same buildings, the 3 plexes. Anytime you want me to slow down or whatever, have any questions, let me know. This is the 32 plex, so this is that larger building in the back, and it curves. You'll be able to see that in the rendering here in just a second. But again, similar materials. The height is a little greater. This is 50 feet. That is the maximum allowed in the resort area in Desert Color. So it peaks right at that, or it caps right at that peak elevation. This is maybe a little better, it gives you a little better idea of what that'll look like. It does curve along with the shape of that building, that lot. Again, 50 feet in height. And that's the application. Again, all parking is being met and exceeded, and height requirements, etc. So the Planning Commission heard this and forwarded a positive recommendation.
Was it a unanimous vote in Planning Commission?
I believe it was, yes. Yes, it was.
I've read a lot of minutes and a lot of things over the last 3 days. I'm confused still on a few things. Is there golf cart parking at this one?
Bob, is there golf cart parking here? I didn't see any specific for golf carts.
Not against this building, but right next door is the clubhouse where the golf cart parking area is.
I'm just wondering about storage on those, because if they're parking a golf cart, where are they parking at? Is that just considered one of their parking places, that they're just going to park in the garage or in their carport spot with that?
Yeah, great question. And so in this scenario, they will be required to use their allotted parking stalls. They'll have their parking stalls, they'll have their garage parking stalls and the guest parking. They'll have to utilize those stalls that would be double utilized for either a car or a golf cart. They're not additional stalls for them in this area. Yep.
Other questions for Dan or Bob?
Is that 32-plex, is that, are those apartments or are those individual condo units? What are those?
Yeah, great question. And so, what this is this is an 8-plex townhome, if you will. It's 4 levels high. Each level, so each of these, so there'll be eight owners in this building, just like a townhome would be. But each level, the interesting thing is that each level can be rented out as its own separate unit. So each owner would have 4 rentals. Mm-hmm. And so we're super excited for this, but that way you could live in one, you could be an investor and rent out all 4 of them, but it's basically just a really big townhome.
That's a really cool model. I can't wait to hear how that goes.
Yeah, and the other item as well is it's very similar to.
Well, the other thing, Bob, that I think is so neat is like it's really interesting how that curve makes it feel. I don't know what the word is, more homey. Like it just feels like not as obtrusive as sometimes a larger building does.
Yeah, and so our intent with that was that we were trying to match the curve of the lagoon. So the lagoon is curving in front of it, right? And then as it steps back, you have the 3 plexes in front. And originally, this building was actually larger, and it was right next to the lagoon in this area. Mm-hmm. We pulled it back just for the massing side of this. We pulled it back, set it back one full row, added the 3 plexes that were in front that are 3 stories. And then in this scenario, we went through and on every level added a deck. So every one of these levels have a full deck across the full front of the unit on every single level. Plus, the roof has access as well for these folks. If they can go up to the roof, they can have access to that. There's nothing up there on the roof, but there is access so you can see the lagoon. And then we went through and positioned the 3 plexes so that from the 3rd story and obviously the 4th story, you will have, hopefully, the intent is full vision of the lagoon in its entirety. And so in between the units and then how we've oriented it, it doesn't look like much on there, but we've tried to do the best job we could to give the view angles. Cool. The 3 plexes are also my other comment that Dan was mentioning earlier. Let's see, where are we? So the 3 plexes are actually the similar scenario. So these are on their own pad. One individual or one company would own this building. This area right here is a unit. This area here is a unit. And then this is our penthouse unit on the top. Now, you have access, side access to get up here to the penthouse, through the stairwell. You get up here and this is one rental unit. These 2 units what's cool about these is that if you needed more than one side, this wall is a roller wall and it rolls back and you can combine and have the whole 2-story downstairs for, 3 or 4 families could be in there all at one time and share it all. And so, but again, the unique side of this, what's different is this is 1 owner, 3 rentals.
Is there any ADA access to that top part? No?
Not to the top part, but the lower level has the normal residential access to those. And then through the back on the garage side, through here, they can access through that on the side.
Yeah, these are so creative.
Yeah, that's a cool product, for sure.
Any other questions for Dan or Bob? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Desert Color Plan Development Zone for 44 multifamily units to be known as Water's Edge at Desert Color Shores on approximately 2.16 acres located generally west of the Desert Color Lagoon, north of Akoya Pearl Road.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 14-lot residential subdivision called Water's Edge at Desert Color. Again, Dan just kind of showed you the zoning. This is just the plat.
that would be recorded again for the subdivide the property. Basically, as Dan indicated, you'd have 4 lots here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lots there, and then 2 single-family lots there, with the rest being common area or private roads. So this would just be the plat that'll be recorded.
I will make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Water's Edge at Desert Color L14 lot subdivision located at Desert Color Development at approximately Akoya Pearl Road and Alice Blue Lane.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Natalie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, this next item is another zone change amendment for Sage Canyon Phase, it doesn't say Phase 1, but it is Phase 1, lots 10 and 11. This one, just like the last zone change amendment that I did, it does have 2 parts. This piece of land, this is the location. We're on Southern Parkway and then White Dome Drive, and it's just right behind the first cul-de-sac, Sunshine Circle, this little spot right there. The 2 parts, I'll explain the 2 parts here in a second, as soon as I show you the general plan, is MDR, medium density residential, and then the zoning right now is open space. So this first part is changing the Southern Hills West master plan. The Southern Hills, this piece of property that we're talking about is actually inside of the Southern Hills West master plan. So when they decided to make this master plan, they put in several of these green open spaces. They weren't necessarily needed. They just wanted to have like some separation. They were drainage areas, and they wanted some separation between the single family homes and the multifamily homes that they were putting in. So that's what this one was there for. Each area, planning area, has its own open space within it. So this was not any type of a requirement. When they did this, the idea was that those spaces would be undisturbed. But this space is actually right here. I'm pointing with my finger. So this space here actually had been disturbed when they built these 2 houses. And so the 2 property owners did approach the developer and ask them if they could just purchase these lots 10 and 11, purchase the land right behind their houses to extend their lots back a little bit, since they were already disturbed. And then obviously the green space over here, or the open space over here, is not disturbed. So that's why we're here, is number 1, to change that master plan so that they no longer have that. It's 0.16 acres total. So change the master plan so that that's not part of the Southern Hills West master plan. And then also to change the zoning from open space to R110. We did present this to the Planning Commission. There was a public hearing for that. They did recommend approval. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions?
Seems like it makes sense, and they can beautify it. So, you want a motion, Mayor?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance amending the Southern Hills West Master Plan to first remove the 0.16 acres of open space and to add the 0.16 acres to lots 10 and 11 of the Sage Canyon Phase 1 final plat, and to rezone the 0.16 acres to single-family residential, minimum lot size 10,000 square feet, located south of White Dome Drive and west of Sunshine Circle, for a project to be known as Sage Canyon Phase 1, lots 10 and 11.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, starting with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
MacArthur, aye.
Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Mike Hadley. Item 13 is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Hidden Valley Planned Development Residential Zone for 30 townhome units to be known as the Villa Islands at Hidden Valley Phase 5 on approximately 5.20 acres, located at London Lane in Hidden Valley Development. So here you can see the aerial view. Like as mentioned, this is Phase 5, contiguous here, Phase 2. The general plan designation is medium-density residential, and the zoning map is planned development residential. Here you can see the layout of the 30 units here along London Lane. And then there's this portion here, which is a 100-foot trail corridor that the developer is going to deed to the city. Here's the landscape proposal, and as they come through site plan, we will make sure that it meets our water-wise and xeriscaping ordinances. Pictures of elevations of some current units out there. And then here's the master plan area. Just for reference purposes, the Villa Highlands is in this area right here.
So it follows the master plan?
Yeah, it does. And then they also have 3 separate color schemes for these units. And with that, I can answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for Dan?
Are you ready for a motion?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance amending the Hidden Valley Plan Development Residential Zone for 30 townhome units to be known as Villa Highlands at Hidden Valley Phase 5 on approximately 5.2 acres located at London Lane in the Hidden Valley development.
Second.
Motion by Natalie, seconded by Michelle. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, so the next item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 30-lot residential subdivision called Villa Highlands Phase 5. As Mike presented it just recently. So basically, this would be the subdivision plat. These would all be private units right here, private road right through the center called London Lane. As he indicated, that property on the north side where the wash and the trail go through will be dedicated to the city. And then this property right here on the south is need to be dedicated as open spaces, is hillside property.
Questions for Wes? If not, I'll take a motion.
I think.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Villa Highlands Phase 5, a 30-lot residential subdivision located within the Hidden Valley development at the west end of London Lane.
I'll second that.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 4-lot residential subdivision called Berry's Place. Site is located approximately 443 north and 300 west along diagonal. Let's see, number of lots is 4. Density is 4.92 dwelling units an acre. Zoning is RCC. The applicant is Legit Construction. So this is where it's located right here. Here's diagonal right there. These are the homes that were burned in that fire a couple years ago right there. So the proposal is to turn this into a 4-lot subdivision right there with a public road that would come in there and service these 4 lots. These two are about 5,000 square feet, with these being about 10,000 square feet.
Wes, I couldn't tell how wide that road is going in there.
We have a small road on these type right here, and I think it's like 25 or 26 feet of pavement, curb and gutter on both sides, and then a sidewalk on one side.
Okay.
And they'll also have a privacy wall that they have to build right there along that roadway on that south side.
As a city, do we prefer that as a public road?
It's the way the ordinance is written is downtown that these roads need to be public roads for these infill areas.
Oh, okay.
Any more questions? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Berry's Place, a 4-lot residential subdivision located at 443 north, 300 west.
Second.
Motion by Natalie, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 1-lot, 2-parcel subdivision called Rilasante at Devario. Site is located at approximately Gap Canyon Parkway and Canyon View Drive. Zoning is R110, except for that's not totally correct. The lot 1 is PDR. So basically, it's right here. You may remember this. This is the one where it came back a couple of times. So in the creation of Lot 1, it's at PD where they had the apartments down here and then the townhomes up in this area right here. So basically, they'll be creating this one lot here that then will be subdivided in the future for a subdivision for that development. Then they'll be dedicating an open space parcel right here that's part of their master plan, shows it being dedicated to the city. There was some question as to why this wasn't being dedicated on the east side. This is planning area 2 on the east side. Their proposal is to end the dedication of the open space right here on the south end and then dedicate that when they bring that forward with PA2. And then the third parcel they'll be creating is for the community park right there along DeVario Canyon Drive. So that'll be the community park right there. So it's basically a 1 lot, 2 parcel subdivision.
Then I'll ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to, not consider, I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for, okay, help me out, Relazante at DeVario, a 1 lot, 2 parcel subdivision located approximately at Gap Canyon Parkway and Canyon View Drive.
Second.
Motion by Natalie, seconded by Michelle. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next subdivision is to approve an amended plat called Desert Canyons Town Center West Commercial Subdivision amended. This was originally approved as so it's right here along the Southern Parkway and Desert Canyon Parkway. It was originally approved as a 5-lot commercial subdivision. They've actually taken this lot 3 that was part of our 103 and divided it into 3 lots, so that increases the number of lots by 2 in the commercial subdivision. So that's the reason it's coming back, is just to amend the preliminary plat and add those 2 additional lots.
I can make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve amended preliminary plat for Desert Canyons Town Center West, a 7-lot commercial subdivision located at the intersection of Desert Center Drive and Desert Canyon Parkway.
Second, I think that's going to be a great improvement to that neighborhood. I'm excited.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Natalie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Sorry you were last on the list, Kurt.
Hey, Kurt, that park is looking awesome out there. Thank you. It is. I've been out there twice. Thank you so much.
I don't have any appointments to boards other than sticking Sean with the Mosquito Abatement Board. And yeah, Sean knows. He volunteered, actually.
Mosquitoes are blood-sucking parasites.
That's right. Any reports? Michelle? Natalie?
I am happy that Desert Canyons Park has started, and I thought the ribbon tire cutting yesterday was nice.
That trail's amazing. Greg?
No report.
No.
Danielle?
Yeah, if you guys haven't been to see the Temple Springs trail, you got to go check it out because it's just like the most beautiful view of the city, and there's a space down in there that like the overhang, and it almost feels like you're down in Havasupai, especially once it rehabilitates from us putting a trail through there. Yes, so I just wanted to share a couple things. The historic St. George Live tours are going on right now through August. They're every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They start at 10 a.m. and they're at the Art Museum. And so that's just kind of a fun thing to remember that that's happening again. And then also, the Art Museum is going to do memberships now. So something just to be aware of. The Art Museum's still free, but if you sign up to be a member, so like a student membership's $15 and you get 10% off at the gift shop, you get 10% off the art education classes, you get like free guided tours of new exhibits, a monthly newsletter, membership sticker, personalized membership card, participation in something called the North American Reciprocal Museum Association, which is like you can go to other museums when you're traveling. So that's just kind of a fun thing. And then they're also doing it with corporations. So corporations can sign up and like all their employees get that same thing. And then the cool thing with the corporations though is they're starting it's called the Art Share program. So like as a corporation, you would be able to have a piece of art from the museum that you know, they come and hang it for you and it's protected and everything, but still you would have this art share where like once a year you would get a new piece of art that would be in your museum, in your business. And so that's, yeah, in your museum that you create in your front office. No, but I just wanted to share that because it's kind of a cool thing that they're doing to raise some money at the art museum, and I think it'll generate some excitement, and people will be able to see our collection even more, especially as we start, you know, the art share and start sharing it around at businesses. So that's all. Thank you.
Art share is genius.
I know, it's a great idea. I'm all about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have a great collection. I think you all got invitations for Susical that's going on at Stage Door. I got an email from the lady that's doing it, and she said it's a phenomenal show for adults and kids alike. So I think it's complimentary for 2 tickets, if it might have been in your box. So any need for a closed session?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we have a closed session to discuss. How do I word that?
It's on the agenda.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Number 20.
You're so good. To discuss which one? Character and professional competence?
And potential litigation.
Yes, and potential litigation.
Motion by Jimmy. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so motion carries 4-1 with Danielle abstaining, and need a motion to adjourn from City Council and go into a closed session.
So moved.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Michelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.